we live in an analog world, but we operate in a digital world. So there has to be some point of crossover, and whether that's through collaboration technologies for meeting rooms, or whether it's AI PCs that are able to offload some of the workload, or print, which is the ultimate bridge between analog and digital world, we're the point at which that occurs. It's quite clear that print volumes are slowly declining, but also clear that the generation of documents is growing year on year.
Hello, I'm Luella Fernandez, CEO of Quocirca, and today I'm at HP's Customer Welcome Centre in London. I'm joined by Howard Roberts, Distinguished Technologist at HP, and we'll be discussing how HP is driving innovation in the workplace. So welcome, Howard. It's great to see you again, and thank you for joining me today.
Thanks very much for the invitation. Looking forward to it.
I'm really looking forward to talking about some of the key technology trends that we're seeing in the industry today. So firstly, could you tell us what Distinguished Technologist entails?
Yeah, it's an interesting title. I'm a strategist for HP, focusing on office print. I've been in office print all of my career, actually, but as a strategist and a customer-facing strategist, I work with senior partners at our customers and our partner community to make sure that their vision for their print strategy needs to be, whether it's a technology strategy or services strategy, they understand where HP is going and we understand where they're going. So what we're doing is trying to meet the customer where they want to go, not where HP wants them to be. And during those conversations and those consultations, I'll take some of that feedback and feed that back into our R&D team along with all our other sources to make sure that when future products and services are built and created, that again we're taking customer input into the process rather than just inventing a bunch of stuff and throwing it out and see what sticks.
Yeah, so you've got that really interesting role where you're customer facing as well as focusing on product innovation.
Absolutely, yes.
HP recently announced its quantum resistant devices for particularly printers. I know it already had added that capability for its laptops. Can you explain exactly what quantum computing is and why we need to have quantum protected devices?
Yes, sure. So current encryption that we actually use isn't actually unbreakable. It's just unfeasible to break it. If you use classical computing, that it can take, depending on key length and all that kind of stuff, then it can take literally millions of years with current standards to break that encryption. Quantum computers operate very differently, and the expectation has always been that a powerful quantum computer could take the time to break that encryption by orders of magnitude less. There's some recent work that's been done by Google, and I think it's the Institute of Technology in Stockholm that's actually reduced that time even more. So the expectation is that in the near future, quantum computers will be able to break modern encryption or current encryption. So there's been work done to produce algorithms that are quantum resistant. So what HP has actually done is actually taken those algorithms and protected the most fundamental part of our printers. So, in the past we always say that if you own the hardware, you own the device. It doesn't matter what's layered on top of it. So what we've done is we've built in a quantum resistant encryption to the key that locks the BIOS of the device, because if you own the BIOS, you own all the hardware and it doesn't matter what else you do. So quantum resistant encryption is used on there, and that means we've had to add, there's some special hardware and some firmware changes, but yes, the world's first quantum resistant printers. It's coming across the range of our enterprise printers later on this year.
So in terms of technology innovation, where would you say that the market is going? Because I think HP is very uniquely positioned in having the expertise across IT and print. So are there any particular trends that you think are really shaping the industry?
The whole thing has been driven by the improvements in connectivity and networking. Right, so if you start with the LAN, right, which was all local area, and if you wanted to use something that was shared, like a file server printer, you had to drive there to actually use it, right? And there was nothing else aside from that. And then you kind of had the WAN technologies, where kind of you ended up with VPNs or people dialing in on modems, and then or maybe branch offices on kind of ISDN and those kind of networks. But it was still all kind of one giant LAN. And then this more modern update where essentially you've got an overlay network on top of the internet, and you're using kind of cloud services and this people call it zero trust. It's not really, but it's you've got this concept where it doesn't matter how you're connected, you can still get at your data wherever you are. So all of those kind of changes meant that it's driven print in specific ways, because it's not just your beige box sitting in the corner now. if you think about some of the things that people are requesting, right? So authentication, right? So people have multi-factor authentication that you use on the laptops and the mobiles and things, but they want the same thing on the printers. Why should it be different? So we have to be able to talk to cloud services on MFPs. We don't know what device we're printing from, right? So if you want to print from a mobile, which is kind of on a 5G network, and then your laptop's on a wired or a wireless network, they can't see the printer. They've got no line of sight to it. And that's why, so they want a print path or a scan path that goes to the cloud. And that technology's been around for a long time, but it's only kind of truly emerged as being useful in the past, again, with this zero trust kind of thing.
Yeah, and I wanted to pick up on that because, cybersecurity threats are really intensifying in terms of organisations having to protect their endpoints against threats. And I think zero trust has been sometimes misused in the industry, and I think there's a lack of real understanding of what zero trust is. So could you demystify it?
Okay, well, yeah, zero trust. I don't really like the idea that actually it is this kind of, it's this internet only model, right? Because you could quite easily set up a zero trust network on a LAN and the devices wouldn't talk to each other until they trust each other. So if we take it to the simplest terms, I think that zero trust means trusted communication on an untrusted network. So and it doesn't matter what that network is, whether it's WAN, whether it's LAN, whether it's internet only, whether it's a hybrid of all of them, the devices actually have to trust each other or the service they're talking to before they're actually allowed to communicate with each other. And fundamentally, that comes down to authentication.
So in terms of the current security protection that you've got on existing HP printers, is there anything that HP is doing to really improve that security?
One of the things we're seeing is that the MFP now is kind of an interface into your document ecosystem.
Yeah.
And if you think about how you use your phone or your laptop, only you use them. No one else actually has the use of them. But for an MFP, you could have 10, 20, 100 people using them. So what we're seeing is the kind of need to separate the device identity, as in the hardware and how it identifies itself on the network, from the users who are actually using it. So separate the device identity from the users on there. And that's been a difficult thing for printing in the past because it takes its one identity. But because you've got multiple people logging in, like a kiosk, you can't have someone logging in to see other people's data. So separating user identity. And that's something we've done very successfully. HP Authentication Suite is the solution we use for that. And as far as I'm aware, that's unique to HP, separating user and device identity. And essentially, you have a direct interaction with whatever your online storage is. So if you log into an HP device with your username, credentials, and you authenticate with a multi-factor, you're directly into your OneDrive or your SharePoint or your email. Only you can actually see it. You're talking directly to the service. Whereas, on some of the kind of a lower end devices, without that kind of layer of extensibility, it's limited to one kind of user or a service account on that. So certainly in terms of security, separating device identity from user identity is the big push we've actually had recently.
Yeah, that does sound very unique to HP in terms of making that separation between device and user identity. And I think it's something that, as you mentioned, like smart MFPs are very integral to the network, and the potential for device compromise can be significant. But generally, what we see with our research is that typical print security related data breaches are more related to the paper on the output trays, and actually hacking or accessing a device and using that as an access point to the network it can happen, but if it does happen, it can have devastating consequences. So I suppose that security is across device, like you say, user identity, as well as document security as well.
Exactly. So, and if we find for kind of identity providers that we've got, most people are using a Microsoft Entra ID as that. So that's actually built into the device now. So we've actually added that to the device rather than even through extensibility. So that's called HP Protected Access. In the future, we'll be expanding that out to other identity providers as well. Authentication, where you're accessing another service, is absolutely key to data security. Hardware identity is in there. We've pushed on it a lot in the past, right? We've pushed on Sure Start, which is the BIOS protection. We've pushed on Connection Inspector, which is kind of uses kind of machine learning to understand where outgoing network requests go. We've got firmware protection. There are so many layers that actually the device, as long as it's configured properly, it's much less of a target than the user's data actually is. But as users are accessing their data, wherever it might be in the world, that's the key point. So how you access that data, how you authenticate against it is key. HP Future Smart firmware has several layers of protection. We protect at the very lowest level with the BIOS, for example. We protect the firmware itself to make sure that only signed coders can run, but we also monitor the behavior of the device to see if there's any kind of external intrusion attempting to attack the device. One of these is HP intrusion detection. The other one is HP Memory Shield, which is a feature using control flow integrity to ensure the device behaves properly. What we're going to do now is attack the device and see how it responds and recovers. The first time a device is attacked, it will restart to last known good state. But the second time an identical attack happens, the device will restart but hold at an administrator screen because it wants the administrator to know that something else is happening within the network they need to be aware of.
So I wanted to come on to artificial intelligence, because obviously we can't have a conversation without mentioning AI, and HP obviously has AI PCs and it's very strong focus on the AI proposition around the PC systems. In terms of print, what is HP doing around things like print AI? And I know it recently announced enhanced scan AI. It'd be great to hear more about that.
We've got AI we've got HP AI PCs with their own MPU, or we've got HP Poly Director AI, which does the kind of automatic framing and improves conferencing experiences. But in terms of print, it's kind of been in there in the background for a while. So things like predictive maintenance, so we know when a part might actually fail, or when customers or partners might need consumables shipped from us. But we're beginning to see it come out into the customer environment. I think you mentioned a print AI, which is a kind of a good example of where it improves users' experience of printing. I'm sure you tried it, right? If you print something off from a browser, say, oh, that's a great recipe, I want to print that off. And then, because it's meant for the screen rather than the paper, it comes up as 40 or 30 pages. But print AI, or this AI component of it, will actually look at what the output's going to be and compile the most useful parts of it into a single document. This actually needs that is optimized for print. And here are some options. Would you like more pictures, fewer pictures? That's improving the experience significantly.
Yeah, and I guess it can also reduce wastage as well. So like you say, instead of getting 40 pages, you're actually getting just the pages you need. So I think AI being applied for sustainability there is a really good example.
Yes. You only print the pages that you need to, rather than have to recycle the others.
Yes.
And it doesn't just touch on print either, actually. We touch scan. So there's a cool little AI solution that's coming, which enhances scan to email, right? So if you scan something to email, most of the time you scan it to yourself, right? But so what we've done is we've built an app in that actually takes the document, and before it arrives in your inbox, it's run through an AI that says, okay, let's have a look at the content of this. Let's x-ray it and see what's inside it. So, okay, well, this is a contract. Let's say, okay, we'll rename the document. Rather than document.pdf, we'll actually give it a meaningful name based on the content of the document. And when it arrives in your inbox, we've had a look inside it and gives you a summary. Everyone sees an email summary these days. So this is a summary of what's in the scan. So scan to email has kind of been enhanced by a small AI. And I mean, the best part of it, of that, is that there's zero training or behavioral change for the user. You just scan it, and when it appears in your inbox, it's all done for you. And you can either take those suggestions or ignore them. Right? It hasn't made any change to their behavior at all.
Yeah, I'm very interested in that, because with Quocirca research, where obviously the market is seeing flat to declining print volumes, but at the same time we're seeing an increase in scan volume and scan usage as a result of increased digitization. And I know we'll be seeing a demo of Scan AI later, but what are your views on what you're hearing from your customers in terms of digitization? And I know you've got some perspective on how that market is adapting.
Yeah, so I mean, Scan AI, I'll talk about this in a second, but let's talk about what you talked about, digitization there, right? So to kind of get philosophical about it, there's a difference between digitization and digitalization. So digitization has been around for years, right? You put a piece of paper on a scanner and you turn it into bits. So fax machine digitizes stuff. It just comes out somewhere else and scans. You scan something, whether it's as a JPEG or something. But digitization doesn't really do anything with it. But digitalization is the process of actually what you do with that. So let's say it's useless unless you look inside the document. So OCRing is simple, and this leads to where something like Scan AI comes in. So Scan AI is kind of our digitalization center point. Right? It's cloud-based. It's an AI-driven solution, and in some cases, it completely changes the reliance on what happens when documents are scanned. So if you think about what happens in a non-AI scanning process, right? You've got your stack of documents and you have to sort them out. That one's an invoice, that one's a complaint letter, that one's an order, and you've got to put them in place. And the human element will introduce errors. It's a manual process and prone to someone doing something wrong. So what we do with Scan AI is it's built with the sole aim of reducing your reliance on a manual process. Mostly because, again, people either fat fingers or making a mistake or being tired, put the wrong documents in the wrong place and lost productivity for finding those kind of exceptions. So Scan AI has been trained on millions and millions of documents. Currently we're processing about a million documents a day through Scan AI. What happens is it's been trained in order to recognize what a document looks like. So it will know that is an order. It will know that one is an invoice. It will know that one is a complaint letter. And once it's recognized those in the right place, it will then normalize them. So, the invoices you receive when you get them from different companies, they won't look at all. You'll know it's an invoice, but the format is going to be completely different. Columns, dates. So what it will do, it will normalize the data. Say, okay, well, this is an invoice. And when I'm going to make it searchable, I'm going to normalize the data in the background. So let's put my date in a year, month, day format. Because it's a cloud solution, we don't have to issue software patches to add new features. So what happens, you log on one time and then there's a new feature available. So recently we've been training it on handwriting recognition, and there's some remarkable accuracy on handwriting recognition. Even my handwriting is awful, but it will recognize mine. Also, actually, personally identifying information. So PII, if you tell it, okay, we want it to redact certain things before it's digitalized, that's included. It's not even made searchable. So blank out, it's a credit card number or a social security number or something that we want to take out. So the Scan AI is extremely intelligent and capable of recognizing a random stack of documents, just put them all in at once and let the AI deal with it. Okay, so what I have here is the HP Scan AI demo, and this specifically the redaction of personally identifying information, but in handwriting. So what I have here is some samples of handwriting, forms that are to be completed, all in different handwriting styles. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to drop that into the scanner on the device, and I'm going to just send it. The scanner will actually take those pages. Now we've arrived at the workstation, we find that the scan has already appeared in the Scan AI platform. If we open that scan, we'll find here's the original file that's actually appeared from the scanner, and it's identified already the information that needs to be redacted. So if we now submit that to the Scan AI processing, we find that the handwriting recognition has actually taken place of what the date should be, what the city, so the fields that we asked it to redact have been removed. The next demonstration of HP Scan AI is where we take our paperwork. This is a mixture of invoices and delivery notes. They shouldn't go into the same process, so we're going to separate these documents, but also normalize the data behind them. So again, let me drop those into the scanner and I'll start the process from the front panel. And here are the documents. It's found that out of the 7, 5 of them are okay, but a couple of them need some alerts. Let's have a look at this one. And it's found that the delivery date needs some attention. I'll preview that, and the delivery date on this format is 22.03.2021. Now we don't want that. What we want is with slashes. We want 22.03.2021. Look at the delivery date, correct it, and verify it. Go to the next one that we need to look at, and again it's the invoice date. So let's preview that document and zoom in on it, and we found here that the date is 1st of June 2017. So that's in language format, and we want to correct it. So let's go to the invoice date, verify the right type we want, close that, and then validate the whole section. So now we've moved across to our workstation, we find that there are 2 folders that have been created. It's separated the 2 individual types of document. We have our delivery notes and we have our invoices. So let's go into the delivery notes, and we find here we've got the metadata associated with the PDF. Let's look at the PDF, and we find that here it's loaded in. it's a searchable PDF, and the data behind it is in exactly the format we need to normalize that for our order processing system or our delivery systems.
And I think it's really interesting sort of explaining the concept of digitization versus digitalization, because it sounds like the main difference is then, in your view, that digitalization is more intelligence driven. So it's actually capturing that information and then evaluating that and classifying that and deciding what to do based on the information.
It does, because when a document comes online, when it comes online, it's digitized, you're doing it for a reason. And what Scanner is able to do is say, okay, this is an invoice. What do we actually need to do with it? Drop it off into our ERP system or our ordering-based system. So it kicks off a process in the background without having to have possibly error-prone human intervention. And if an exception comes up, it'll ask a human to validate it and check it. And of course, it learns from that. So the next time it has that error, the errors are reduced.
With workforce experience, that seems very unique in the market, because what we see is that typically customers are using a range of different tools and platforms to manage those environments separately. So it sounds like with this platform, it's something that they can use through a single pane of glass and manage their IT endpoints and print endpoints together.
HP is deploying what we're calling our workforce experience platform. It's a cloud service which monitors and manages the effectiveness of technology devices and services, the ones HP uses. And I think that's because most business or organisation technology these days is under a form of managed service. So device as a service, managed print service, managed collaboration services, and customers and service providers want to know that we're meeting the SLAs. So an AI component can provide oversight of the managed services contracts with all the appropriate device telemetry, providing the data, the dashboards showing performance and provider performance, device behavior. But because of that, it can also provide insights into how a user base can improve the experience and the productiveness of the device and the fleets they're using.
As we look into the future, it really sounds like HP has got some really distinct advantages in terms of being, operating in the PC and print landscape, but also being able to leverage innovation through HP Labs. What would you say are some key predictions for the industry as well, potentially, for the coming year?
We live in an analog world, but we operate in a digital world. So there has to be some point of crossover, and whether that's through collaboration technologies for meeting rooms, with kind of voice recognition and cameras that enhance productivity, or whether it's AI PCs that are able to offload some of the workload for you and make you be productive, or print, which is the ultimate bridge between analog and digital world, we're the point at which that occurs. It's quite clear that print volumes are slowly declining, but also clear that the generation of documents is growing year on year. I think I mentioned earlier, an organisation is driven by the existence of documents, and which are objects, a collection of data. Whether it's in an email or a spreadsheet or a business plan. And we know that some of these documents might never touch paper at any point in their life cycle. But when they do, and they are printed, it's because it's really important to the user that that document does exist on paper at that point in time. And that means all the things that HP's been known for, whether it's device reliability or high quality output or consistency of colour, is just as important as it's always been. And those devices need to be available and secure when people interact with them. So service and security is still massively important.
And just a final question really on that. It's really interesting because you mentioned that, print volumes are flat to declining and customer behaviour is changing. We're moving to hybrid work. Digitalisation initiatives are accelerating as well. Do you think we'll ever reach the paperless office?
I think that paper is always going to hold an important part in human culture.
Yeah.
So we think about some of the world's largest digital transformation projects, which are actually happening in some emerging economies, whether they're, for example, out in India or in Africa or parts of Latin America or in Asia. In those areas, having a piece of paper with a document on it is still really important. It carries some weight, it carries some import, it carries some meaning. And the fact that document, it might be filed away, it might be pulled out only once every so many years, paper is still going to be a very important and fundamental part of the way that the world operates.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I think, we'll always have this really strong affinity with paper, and it's something tangible and easy to reference. And I think there's always going to be an emotional connection with a high value printed piece of output. So I
100%.
think, I think we're probably
we're
the
safe
less,
for now.
Yeah, the less paper office rather than the paperless office.
Yes.
So Howard, thank you very much for a really insightful perspective. It's a really great way to wrap up the conversation. Really great to understand the whole HP strategy around PC, print and workforce experience. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for joining us at HP. It's been a really interesting conversation.